The story begins in a high-security prison in Colorado, where a man named Ray Breslin is imprisoned. One day, another prisoner approached Ray and warned him to stay away from a man named Jack because Jack was planning to attack Ray. The next day, Jack went through with his plan and attacked Ray, but Jack couldn't overpower Ray, who fought back and ultimately won. However, because of the fight, the prison guards punished Ray by transferring him to a separate chamber. This chamber was part of the prison reserved for the most dangerous prisoners, where inmates were locked up for 24 hours a day. This new room had no windows and contained only a single toilet. To ensure Ray was always under watch, the guards kept him under 24-hour surveillance. Despite this punishment, Ray began observing the prison closely to plan his next steps. Ray realized that there was a garage beside his room. As Ray roamed the prison, he realized that the guards were not as attentive as they should be, particularly during the shift changes. He noticed that the guards took a 7-minute cigarette break every day, which gave him a potential window to act. Now, he needed to find a way to unlock the door to his cell. Using the plastic film from a milk carton he received with his meals, he carefully placed it over the keypad screen of the lock. This allowed him to record the fingerprints left on the screen and figure out the correct passcode for the door. Decoding the numbers and arranging them in the right sequence wasn't too difficult for Ray. Meanwhile, he informed his team outside the prison about his escape plan. He instructed them to wait for him in the garage at 4 p.m. on the day of his escape. When the day finally arrived, Ray used the passcode to unlock his cell. Quietly, he navigated through the prison's ventilation pipes to reach the garage. At the same time, his team created a diversion by setting off an explosion outside the prison. The distraction worked, drawing the attention of the guards and bringing fire trucks to the scene. Seizing this opportunity, Ray slipped out by clinging to the underside of one of the fire trucks. Although his team came to pick him up, they eventually left him stranded on an empty road. Soon after, the police captured Ray. However, a man named Lester arrived and convinced the authorities to release him. Lester and Ray then went to meet the head of the jail, where it was revealed that Ray wasn't actually a criminal. Instead, he was the owner of a security company that specialized in testing the security systems of prisons worldwide. Ray's job was to infiltrate prisons under the guise of a prisoner, identify weaknesses in their security, and provide recommendations for improvements. Over the years, Ray had escaped from so many prisons that he had become infamous, earning a reputation as someone who could escape from any jail. After 5 months, Ray returned to his office. His partner Lester then introduced him to a woman named Jessica. Jessica wanted Ray to investigate the world's most secret and tightly secured prison. However, there was one condition. Ray and his team wouldn't be given any information about the prison's location. In exchange, Jessica offered a massive sum of money for the task. Initially, Ray was hesitant and didn't like the idea, but Lester managed to convince him. Ray finally agreed and began preparing for the mission. Soon, Ray identified a terrorist who was being kept in the prison. However, before he could proceed further, he was kidnapped and rendered unconscious by unknown individuals. They removed the tracker from his arm and blindfolded him, so that he could not know about the location. When Ray woke up, he found himself inside the mysterious prison, locked in a glass box surrounded by other prisoners. He quickly realized that he had no idea where the prison was located. Then Ray met the warden of the prison, Hobbs, but Ray was told that the warden's name should be Marsh, and Ray began to suspect that something was off. When Ray tried to use a special emergency code that was supposed to get him out of the prison, the guards ignored his request and sent him back to his cell. Meanwhile, outside the prison, Abigail and Harsh were desperately trying to track down Ray's location. Inside the prison, Ray observed that all the guards wore identical clothes and masks, and they used extreme violence to control the inmates. Ray later met another prisoner named Emil, who confided in him. Emil revealed that he hadn't committed any crime, but was imprisoned because some people wanted to know about his boss's location. Ray soon realized that none of the inmates were actual criminals. Instead, the prison was a secret torture facility where the rich and powerful paid to have their rivals punished. Now, Ray had to move to the area where the most dangerous prisoners were kept. To do this, he devised a plan and deliberately started fighting with them. His actions resulted in him being restrained and thrown into a special cell, which was essentially a form of torture. The room's temperature was so unbearably high that no normal human could withstand it for long. The bright, blinding lights made the prisoners dizzy, and all the while, the warden took sadistic pleasure in watching their suffering through the cameras. The next day, a doctor named Kylie came to check on Ray and Emil. Although the doctor seemed to pity Ray, he didn't disclose the prison's location when Ray asked. After some time, Ray and Emil were released from the torturous cell. During their time there, Ray had observed something critical. The floor of the room wasn't made of aluminum like he initially thought, but steel. This discovery became part of his escape plan. Ray told Emil to bring a medal so he could use it to unscrew the bolts of the prison's structure. However, the guards, suspicious of Emil, dragged him into an interrogation room. They questioned him about his boss Mannheim, but Emil remained silent. In response, the guards tortured him by forcing a water pipe into his mouth. During this time, Emil managed to steal a small piece of metal without being noticed. Later, Ray and Emil discussed their escape plan. Ray shared his theory that the prison was built underground. Even if they succeeded in unbolting their way out, they'd need to find a path upward to reach the surface. Emil realized that Ray's information could help, and he was determined to trust him to make their escape successful. According to their plan, Ray staged another fight and used the opportunity to reach the torture cell. While hiding from the surveillance cameras, he began unscrewing the bolts as quickly as possible. When he needed a distraction, he signaled to Emil. Emil caused a commotion to divert the guards' attention, shouting loudly and drawing everyone's focus toward him. Meanwhile, Ray pushed a piece of paper into the camera to block its view temporarily. He managed to slip down through the floor, but during his descent, he accidentally broke a pipe, which caused water to flood the area. Undeterred, Ray made his way upward, only to discover something shocking. This prison wasn't underground as they'd thought. Instead, it was located on a massive ship floating in the middle of the ocean. The water inside the prison began to fill up, so Ray quickly returned to his cell. Meanwhile, outside the prison, Abigail and Harsh were speaking with Lester about Ray's situation. They discovered that the payment Ray was promised for this mission, a check, had bounced. They also learned that the mysterious woman named Jessica, who was supposedly behind the deal, had vanished without a trace. Abigail and Harsh pressed Lester to find Ray and rescue him, but Lester refused. He insisted that Ray should complete the mission on his own. Later, it was revealed that Lester had orchestrated this entire situation. His true motive was to eliminate Ray so he could take over the company as its sole owner. Lester made a fake deal, ensuring Ray would be sent to the prison and left there forever. However, Abigail and Harsh didn't agree with Lester's plan. They learned that the facility wasn't a regular jail, but a secret location where powerful people imprisoned their enemies. Despite this, they couldn't figure out its exact location. Inside the prison, Ray and Emil were working to identify where they were. Ray approached the doctor for help, but the doctor initially refused. Determined, Ray stole a mattress and crafted a device called a sextant using the materials available. With this device, he could calculate the coordinates of the ship's location. However, to use it, he needed access to the ship's upper deck. To get there, Ray enlisted the help of a prisoner named Javed. Javed pretended to be a spy for the warden and, in return, requested permission to pray in the open air. The warden, unaware of their plan, granted his request. Using the sextant, Javed calculated the ship's position and discovered they were in the Atlantic Ocean near Morocco. Emil then revealed that he had a friend in Morocco who could help them. If they managed to send their location to this friend, he could mobilize a team to rescue them. Ray convinced the doctor to assist them once again. Late at night, the doctor secretly wrote an email to Emil's friend, providing the exact coordinates of the prison. Finally, the day of escape arrived. Javed created a diversion by giving false news to the warden, claiming that a big fight was about to break out in Block A. Upon hearing this, the warden immediately sent most of the guards to Block A, leaving only 2 guards in their area. Taking advantage of this, Ray and the prisoners began fighting among themselves, creating chaos and distracting the remaining guards. In the midst of the chaos, Emil, Ray, and Javed made their way to the upper part of the ship. However, the warden quickly locked down the entire prison, sealing all doors. Before they could reach the top, every exit was blocked, forcing them to retreat. Meanwhile, Emil's friend arrived in a helicopter with his team, ready to assist. However, inside the prison, a fierce gunfight erupted between the guards and the prisoners, making the situation even more dangerous. As they pressed on, Javed was suddenly shot by a guard, making it hard for him to continue. Ray decided to head to the control room to cut off the ship's electricity, which would unlock the upper doors. He asked Javed to stay behind and rest while he went ahead. Javed, knowing he wouldn't survive much longer, encouraged Ray to keep moving. Left with no choice, Ray had to leave Javed behind. Tragically, the guards caught and killed Javed shortly after. Despite the challenges, Ray successfully cut the power, unlocking the doors. At the same time, another prisoner, Emil, rushed to the upper deck, aiming to reach the helicopter. However, the guards started attacking them. Emil's friend in the helicopter bravely held his ground, fighting off the guards while waiting for Ray. Meanwhile, Ray found himself trapped in a water tank as the guards closed in on him. Thinking quickly, he opened the tank's door and jumped straight into the ocean. From the helicopter, Emil spotted Ray struggling in the water and immediately threw down a ladder. Ray grabbed onto it and climbed aboard the helicopter. Once on the helicopter, Ray aimed his weapon at the ship's oil tanks and fired relentlessly. The resulting explosion destroyed the entire prison ship, killing the warden and his guards in the process. Ray and Emil successfully escaped and eventually reached Morocco. Upon reaching the shore, a car was waiting for them. To Ray's surprise, Jessica stepped out of the vehicle. She was the same woman who had sent him to the prison. Ray was stunned when she revealed that she was actually Emil's daughter. Even more shocking, it turned out that Emil was the real boss, Mannheim, who had been hiding his identity to protect himself. Jessica explained that her real motive for sending Ray to the prison was to rescue her father, who had been unjustly held there. She also revealed Lester's betrayal and his alliance with the warden. Lester had made a deal. If Ray failed to escape, Lester would become the CEO of the security company. Finally, Ray reunited with Harsh and Abigail, who confirmed Lester's plan. When Lester learned that Ray had escaped, he panicked and tried to flee. Harsh chased Lester down, and after a dramatic confrontation, Lester woke up to find himself inside a car. However, the car was aboard a massive ship filled with thousands of containers, with no way to know where it was headed. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one.